Rhonda and Deb, thank you so much for coming on to the Power Up with Manal podcast. I am so excited to have two superwomen on this show. This is going to be a super powered show because you guys are making impacts to society. You have a journey, you're writing a book together, you are reaching many, many individuals out there and changing lives. And I can't wait. I already have goosebumps. I'm already shimmying here. I already got goosebumps. I can't wait for the audience to learn about who you are and what your mission is and what you're doing. So Rhonda and Deb, please introduce yourselves and tell us about your, awesomeness.
Go ahead, Deb. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Go first, Rhonda. You're the one that started everything.
Okay. So my name is Rhonda Peoples, and I am one of the co-founders of Empowering Women Alliance. And we started maybe almost 4 years ago in writing a book. It was really an idea. It was really a game that I was putting together and some personal development courses that I was working with it. And, put it together. And somebody said, I think you should write a book. And I'm like, no, I'm not old enough to write a book. And I don't know how to write a book. And I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to, no. Right. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm doing it, and so I called my friend who is a wordsmith, who is a storyteller, who is awesomeness in so many realms, but definitely in the writing book realm. And I said, Deb, guess what I'm going to do? And she's like, well, what? I go, I'm going to write a book. She was like, oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. She goes, so many women. What if you put together a collaborative book with women? And I was like, what?
What does a collaborative book with women mean?
Right? I just knew I didn't have to do it by myself, so I was all in. So we proceeded, and really, part of the game that I was playing in the course is that I needed to create something in the world that was bigger than me, that required a team, and I had no idea how to do it, right?
Wow.
And so between the two of us, we brought together, including ourselves, 15 women. And really, we started from nothing. When I had to write out what it looks like to write a book, I had to Google. What does it look like to write a book?
I had to do the same thing. I won't lie. I had to do the same thing.
Absolutely. So we put together a group of ladies and created something so extraordinary. And it was powerful. It was an opportunity to create a supportive, loving, nutritious, yummy group
good
of
for your
women.
soul. Good for your soul.
For your soul.
There you go. Good for your soul. It's soul food.
It was really about inspiring women to rediscover their voices.
Wow.
And to really share their stories.
Wow.
And so we did it. It was a year and a half that we were together, and we had remarkable success. And towards the end, it was like one of the ladies said, this is so awesome that I think that we need to create a business.
Wow.
And from that, we created Empowering Women Alliance. We're on our second book. Our first book is to be published in a couple of weeks, right? A couple of weeks, we're going to launch it.
And what's the book? Can we get a sneak peek of the book name?
It's Empowering Women with Words, Life-Changing Conversations.
Love.
And Empowering Women with Words is actually the name of the book series.
Yes.
When we shopped the book to 12 publishers, we got 10 offers.
Wow.
Which is not something that usually happens. And so our publisher is so thrilled and excited that they've signed on for the whole series.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. And Deb, introduce yourself. Jump in, sister.
I'm Deb Anderson. I have a rather eclectic background. Most recently, for the last 27 years, I've had my own marketing and promotions business doing family portrait photography events. And I created the business to be based on a win-win-win scenario where people were in cooperation rather than in competition. And that skill set really helped add to the team that Rhonda was talking about putting together. And when we started inviting our friends to join us in writing this book, we came to realize that we had been surrounding ourselves not only with powerful women, but with women who had been through something in their lives. They had had some kind of a challenge, a breakdown, an upset, a trauma. Something had happened, and yet they didn't allow that to stop them. In fact, they used that as a springboard to be able to go into a new level of their lives. We have surrounded ourselves with women who understand the difference between change and transformation. And these women, having been through a transformative, event, and with all of the ahas and the wisdom that then they gathered, were encouraged by Rhonda and I to write their story in such a way that you could see who they were before this event happened, what happened, what they made it mean, and then how they came through it with wisdom, with a life lesson to share, with encouragement, empowerment, and a real burning desire to share this with other women. In my case, it was so that other women didn't have to struggle the way that I did, that maybe I could help them not have to work so hard and spin their wheels for so long if they knew that someone else had been there first and had gotten through it. And this is how I had gotten through it. And we discovered that a lot of women had similar kinds of stories, and yet every chapter in the book is different. Every one of them is going to speak to a different, segment of the female population, and yet they're all universal stories. The other thing that Rhonda and I discovered is that the more personal you make your story, the more vulnerable you are in the telling of it, the more impactful it is to women who read it, especially when they see that you can come through it and that your life just expands from having found your voice and used it in the world.
Yeah. We had so many women that had really done a lot of personal development and transformational work, like on the court, in it, with coaches, right? Really done a lot of work. And they found having to put it on paper. And we have a proprietary process that we go through, and in plugging them and engaging them into this process allowed them to start shedding things that they didn't realize were still there for them. It allowed them to really, really drop those invisible shackles that were around them, telling them the way that life was supposed to be and allowing them to see life with a new light.
Wow.
And we women, we are born with a lot of don't talk about it. It's a taboo.
Yep.
Don't air your dirty laundry.
Yep.
I can't believe you said that.
Yep.
All of it's not true. It was your fault.
Exactly.
If you wouldn't be so pretty, we could go on and on and on all night about it. So, so this arena allows for women to really get real, and it's not an easy thing to do.
No, not easy at all.
No,
it's not easy at all. I mean, all the words you were saying, it's so interesting because it's like resonating with my story, other women that I know, their stories. Like and this could potentially be for others as well, but just focusing on the niche, genre of women, like we do have a lot of societal norms that reside in our unconscious state. And we walk life with limiting ourselves because of these beliefs. Honestly, I was in the banking industry for a very long time. And it was a very, stoic industry. You don't let your guard down. And in order to be the best leader, you just copied yourself into the leader that was, getting promoted, not the leader that was your true self, right? And I learned really quickly that, well, not quickly, I take that back, not quickly. After many years and then crashing and burning and being on the bathroom floor, crying the whole night, then I had an epiphany, right? But and this is in every part of my life, not just business. I realized that wasn't me. And I was trying to be somebody else that I didn't actually fully believe in, because I genuinely believed that there was a balance in life of this alpha, beta, right? This yin yang. And there are times that, you are, transformative, and you pull different levers of what type of person or leader you are in that situation so you can drive forward, right? Whether you're a mother, whether it's in life, whether it's in business, wherever it may be, right? But for a long time, we just didn't talk about it. And what do? We work harder. And that doesn't mean an actual job. Like, even if you're like a homemaker, you just work harder at home and with your kids. And all that does is create this big bubble of avoidance that we have around us. Like, I just picture females walking down the street with these gigantic avoidance bubbles, and all our feelings are just pinging back, and they're pinging back into our body, and we're like, and then we're just like, shake it off and keep moving. But that's not sustainable. That's not healthy. And then all that energy that's cluttered our brain, because now we can't sleep. We're constantly thinking about it in our unconscious state. It's coming out in the forefront because the way we trigger, right? We got triggers now. And then they're like, oh, look at her. She's so, my least favorite word, bipolar. and it's like all this stuff that's built inside, and it's like, we're not free. And so I have goosebumps talking to you guys, because I feel like you are creating an avenue for women to be okay with it, to create that freedom that's going to make them stronger, better, and free up all that energy to do the things they love and be better at the things they are doing, so they're not so frustrated, right? And
yeah. Well, not only that,
I will cry.
to really be empowered. So we're not empowering women to go be superwoman, right? We're empowering women to have the confidence of standing strong and confident in who they are. And we've gone through the majority of our life seeing the men in the world. This is how you act if you want to make good money, if you want to have a business, if you want to be successful, if you want to be all those words, right? This is what it looks like. And so, I struggled for 22, 30 years trying to be like a man to be successful in the automotive industry. I mean, it was an automotive for 22 years, and I watched, right? And that's what it was. And so, I was always not worthy, and I was always trying to prove myself. And there was always this fight. And when I finally started releasing a lot of those shackles that I was carrying around with me, it allowed me to find my heart.
Oh my gosh.
And then when I found my heart, I got out of here, I dropped down here, and I really honestly started walking around loving everybody. And the whole world, Manal, changed.
Yeah.
That quick.
You're walking a different walk.
Totally.
You're walking a different walk because you are not seeking external validation.
Right.
You are introspectively happy.
Right. One of the chapters I write about is women giving birth. Now, there's some women that have not given birth, and they will go to the grave not having given birth. But women have all of the equipment. They have everything necessary to create human beings. Nobody else could do that.
Nope.
That's a power that, we just don't give ourselves credit. It's almost taken for granted.
Yeah, that's why in ancient civilizations, women and fertility were gods, right? They were worshipped because of that ability. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we just discount it and keep thinking other people are more powerful than we are, right? When reality is once we change our glasses and the filters that we see ourselves in the world and really see the love that we are, and go out and create a business for women. Don't plug into the male, because you are gonna, right? Because it was made for men, which is wonderful. They do well within that group, but a lot of women don't, right? Because we have the children and everything else, right? So we're empowering women to really fully understand who they are and have the confidence and power to go out in the world and create whatever they want to based on their rules.
I love it. I love it. And it's not, it's such a difficult thing to do, but not an impossible thing to do. And I love that there's no equipment. You don't have to go anywhere else to do it. Like, it's all here. It's all internal. You're basically helping women find that internal satisfaction, internal voice, I would say that I think the biggest introspective behavior that you are unlocking is healing, internal healing, right? And to be our own champion. Like, there are women out there, and maybe, once upon a time, I'm going to raise my hand, but, they're overachievers and they're running hard, and everybody else is like, wow, look at you. You're doing so many things. But like, inside, you're like, oh my God, this is not good enough. I need to do better. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like, I remember when I went back to do my MBA, that was when I wish, Rhonda, somebody like you, like, held me and like shook me, okay? Just shook me, because I was managing a team of 400 individuals at a large financial institution. I had a toddler, and I just had my baby girl like 6 months ago. And I was like, well, I have to do my MBA. All the men are getting promoted. So I went back and did my MBA full time.
That's right. That's
full
right.
time.
That's what we
With
do.
all that, I didn't drop anything.
That's what we do. Women worry about building businesses. I'm like, my God, you've been running a business ever since, the household, the children, the doctor's appointment. Like, you run a business. Like, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Well, I'm going to jump back in, because both of you have been talking about things that directly relate to our mission statement, because our mission is to inspire women to be authentically self-expressed and unapologetically powerful. And we don't mean that in any way that's militant. We mean that, like what you were talking about, Manal, about from the inside out, finding that inside, about being inspired and encouraged to speak up, to use your authentic voice. For me, it was, I had to use an old cliche phrase, to find myself. But everything had been layered on top of me for so long, and I had bought into it for so long. It took some unearthing to find out who I really was. And in writing these stories, we discovered that too. But one of the strengths that women have is collaboration. Rhonda was talking about how men have their own paradigm for doing things. When women are allowed to do things the way that we do things naturally, and we collaborate, we are extremely powerful. We find hidden reserves. We find things about ourselves that we didn't know. And when we're in a supportive environment of other women who are also collaborating, we become more than the sum of our parts. And then when we separate, we are bigger, stronger, more resilient than we were before we went into that collaboration process. We found this out almost by accident in collaborating on a book, but now we're collaborating on our business, Empowering Women Alliance. And we discover that when all of these women are bringing their unique skill sets, each one of our skill sets becomes expanded, but then we have possibilities that were not available before. And that's one of the reasons why our business has started taking off beyond what we had originally, planned for it. And why women in other countries are asking us, how did you do this? Can you show us how to do this too? We've had women writing for our books on multiple continents. We've had them writing from the full age range. In our first book, our youngest was in her mid-20s, our oldest was in her mid-70s. And yet the two of them could collaborate because women have so much in common, right? When you were talking, Manal, about getting your MBA in the midst of everything else that you were doing, Dr. Christy Lee, who is the youngest in book one that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, talked about having to discover working and living and loving at the pace of grace. And the oldest in our group talked about cultivating wisdom, and how both of them were able to come together and understand that they were talking about two parts of the same question, the age-old question that all women have to find that, to be able to strike that balance in. And that's just two women in our book with all of the different chapters and stories that they have. And each one tells her personal story, which is also very important.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell your personal story, isn't it, Manal?
Hard. It's so hard. And I love that you have women all around the world writing this, because culture plays such a big part of our sort of sphere, and why, women may be restricting themselves, from certain, areas where introspectively they can free themselves, right? I mean, it's a strong, because in nature, a lot of women are also very nurturing and caring, and the hurting others, or, knowing that you're doing something right, but others may not understand it or feel that it's appropriate, makes a lot of women sort of stay in their shell because they don't want to cause harm to someone else, right? And so it's such a big impact to women because of that, because by nature we are, nurturing, like that is our natural state, and I know I've been like that too. It's very hard, and it's so hard to break that. It's so hard. And I'm also not saying, like, I don't want anyone to take me wrong. I'm also not saying just because you're breaking, cultural or societal norms that you're also like this, like, I don't care, and you're walking around. No, there's a way to, there is decorum and etiquette and diplomacy and a way to help others see and influence, right? Like, these are the things we need to teach in society, is when we are going against the grain, how do you do it with grace? So there's influence that's spreading, right? That's what you're looking for, which that's an art in itself, Well,
Manal, one of the things on our website, empoweringwomenalliance.com, is we have values that we have on there, and we have like little paragraphs along the way of what those values mean to us. And one of the things that you just spoke about is really authenticity, right? Some people think being authentic is they're just going out there with no filter and they're just telling people, they're just telling it, right? Like, we've seen those people, right? And we have identified authenticity by honoring our true selves and others with integrity and respect.
Right.
Self-expression through being vulnerable and courageous and daring to contribute, right? Resilience by promoting self-nurturing, healing, and well-being. So we're right there with you, and and understanding, like, how do you do that? What does that really mean? What does it look like? And so on and so forth. So I get it. I get what you're saying. And it took something for us to put together and really identify those values and put them out there as a guideline, right? Of what we practice living by on a daily basis.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Wow. I just this is so incredible, and it's so close to home. And, it makes me so happy and also so blessed to have crossed paths, Rhonda, first with you and now with Deb. I don't feel like people meet randomly. I feel like every meetup, every person that touches your life has a purpose, And I love how, now in a digital world, you are able to create those connections and have people connect into you, and you can make impacts at a broader scale because of, having your online presence and, getting your book out there and, all these connections. It's like intertwining all these frequency globally. Like, I mean, imagine the power that this is going to have globally and the impacts it'll have on women. As subtle as it may seem, it's not,
Yeah, very true. Very true.
We have also created a Facebook group that's been growing by leaps and bounds, the Empowering Women Alliance Facebook group. So please join the Facebook group. If you do, you will also be getting announcements about the release date for our book, Empowering Women with Words, Life-Changing Conversations. And no kidding, any one of those chapters would have the potential to change someone's life, because all of our lives were changed by the conversations that we had in our stories and in our chapters. So if you want to be empowered, definitely check those things out.
Wow.
We are
so
global.
awesome.
We are global.
Yeah. And that's so
global impact.
important.
Yeah.
That is so important. Again, like women around the world, I mean, we face very similar things in our lives, but also very vastly different depending on our society and cultures. And it's just so nice to hear all the different perspectives. Like, that's so important. And I also feel like, and this is the reason I kind of started this podcast too, because when you hear real life stories, right? You are listening to how somebody else has sort of played the cards that they were dealt, right? How they persevered through, rough times, right? How they were resilient. And sometimes it's okay to not be there, right? I think that's also important to recognize that it's okay, because there is a moment when you're in the storm. And when you're in the storm, it is hard to talk like this. It is hard to be this, right? And I will say, as awesome as you look, Rhonda, today on camera and the way you're talking, there was a moment in your life that it wasn't so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Same here. And I get that all the time. Like, people love to judge. I'm like, look, I can't help it that I got good hair. Okay, that's how I was just born with this. But they don't see all the layers, and Deb, you're shining with your smile, and you kind of alluded to it, but we all have been in a moment where talking like this was not possible. Talking about ourselves was not possible. Right?
Yeah. I mean, we've lost women from our group, the first book and second book, because when they realized that they opened that closet door,
it was
and
scary.
They had not dealt with what was in there. And that's really what this group is doing. They couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
They really, really, now we're still in touch with each one of those women, even today, right? They just couldn't deal with it. So it is, we think that we can put it away, and it comes up, and you don't know what you don't know is happening because of what you stuffed down back into the back of that closet that you think will never come out.
Yeah, I say this all the time. This is like my mantra now, but 95% of all our behaviors, decisions, and the way we approach life in our conscious state is driven by the unconscious.
Absolutely.
Only less than 5% is your true frontal consciousness. 95% of your actions are driven by your unconscious state. And if that unconscious state has so much hurt and depth of burden that you've hidden that you've kind of buried for yourself, it would take so much for somebody to walk life not having it impact them.
That's exactly right. If you've got something hidden back here, it isn't until you bring it around here that you can look at it and you have an opportunity to deal with it. You were very authentic a little earlier when you admitted that something didn't happen instantaneously, that it was something you had to deal with or work with for many years. And for all of us in our stories, it wasn't something that we magically had, happen or transform for us overnight. For many of us, it was a multi-year struggle where we had to continue to learn and grow and struggle and learn and grow and struggle until we finally came through the other side. So for most of us, it wasn't just, a one and done thing.
And we had coaches. We had coaches. We could not have done it without somebody pushing us back on that skinny branch, right? Because most people, like all of us, I did, Deb did, we all said, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. I have a good life. I make six figures. I'm driving a Lexus. I got the shoes. I got the purses. I'm good. Right? And leaving, right? And it wasn't until our coach said, oh, no. Right? And pushing us back.
That's your cover. That was your costume. So how do, the women that you're encountering, it's also very interesting, even in today's society, that it's still also a little bit, I would say, a stigma to go to a psychiatrist, a counselor, a life coach, right? There's still this stigma, and stronger yet in some cultures too, right? Like that you just don't go. It's embarrassing, right? What is your advice to women who are facing that when they know that deep down I need to go, right? I want to go, but if I do, it's like a taboo, right? And how do you help them with that? Or how have you seen them sort of rise above that?
I would say to look at it as not only giving yourself a gift of getting that help or support, but also it's a gift that you are giving to others. Because if something is affecting you, it has to be affecting everybody else in your life. If you are carrying around a burden, the moment that you are in someone's presence that can help you set that down, you become free to then interact with other people in a way that is more positive, in a way that is more loving and accepting, and in a way that's less toxic or dysfunctional. So give yourself the gift and give those other people around you that gift. That's what I would say. Rhonda?
Well, what I say...
Yeah.
What I say is, you know what? You just get to a point in your life when you're just tired. You're tired of living the same life. And for me, like, you know, on the outside, people looked at me and said I was living, and my family, like my siblings are like, when I would share some stories with them, they would be like, what? Like, I was an introvert. I didn't want to talk. I didn't like standing in front of people, having conversation. No, I was petrified. I would be sick before I had to stand up in front of a room and talk to people. Absolutely.
Rhonda, you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I love that this is coming out because
yes, absolutely.
There's so many people who don't think they can turn that around.
You totally can. Like in an instance. I mean, I plugged into personal and professional growth and development courses through the Landmark Forum, right? They have courses from A to Z. And I just continued putting myself in to discover what I didn't know, because honestly, that's what it was. I couldn't figure out. Something was in my way. Like I felt like there was something here, but I couldn't figure it out. And if I could have figured it out, I would have figured it out a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so you do it for you. You do it because you want to be happy and you want to live a different life. And we don't know what's out there because of the pair of glasses we were given. And so to be able to step forward and put yourself in personal development courses, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a therapist. It doesn't necessarily have to be that taboo-ish. A lot of people are into personal development, but do the work. Now, I say Landmark. There's many of those types of courses that are out there that have you really put you out there on the skinny branches. And I just said, look, I'm just going to do whatever they ask me to do. Even though I don't want to do it. I don't want to make that phone call. I do not want to have that conversation. I do not want to get up in front of a room of 125 people and tell my story. Like, no way. And then I said, Rhonda, you said you were tired of living the life you've been living. And I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I'll share a small story. I remember when I was, I would say I was 31 at this point. So it was more than, a decade ago. And I was going through my
41
MBA.
now, doesn't she, Deb? Like, oh my God,
she does. She's just a baby.
And I was going through my MBA program, and in there they had assigned an executive coach. It was what we did. And, I hadn't been in, leadership roles. I've managed large teams. I was still relatively young, even though I had managed such large teams, because I was just always a go-getter, getting promoted, I want to be a leader, right? And I kept moving forward. And I sort of started coming to a crossroad because I have no bad intentions ever in my body. Like, I'm just a very passionate person, right? And I realized my passion was very intimidating to a lot of people, especially men, right? When you would walk into conference rooms and give presentations, you're coming off bold and strong and, not all men, but, at that moment, right? Just, it wasn't happening in the industry. And my coach was a older gentleman, retired, and he was just so calm. And I remember one day, and I was like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and I do this, and I've taken these courses, and rattling off, right? And he just kind of looked at me and he goes, I want to ask you a question. I was like, okay. He goes, what does your silence sound like? I was like, he's like, don't answer. Think about it. I was like, okay. And honestly, like since then, and I have to give him so much credit. I don't know where he is in this world. Mario Flores in Coppell, Texas. Okay. And he changed my life. He literally changed my life. And he's like, Manal, you don't need to speak. You don't need to prove yourself. He's like, listen to your silence because you're not listening to you. And it changed me introspectively, I think a lot. I started meditating a lot after that. I was like, that's the only way to find my silence. That was how I kind of put two and two together. But I think what it also did was allowed me to understand other people as well, process how they process, help me understand, okay, if this is a decision point, they're thinking about it in a completely different way, and maybe that's okay. And should I change the way I'm making decisions and maybe take on some of that? Like, I kind of admire that, right? And so it allowed me to really, I think, understand humans. And understanding humans and understanding yourself, I think that like dynamic just makes you such a, I would say, as a person, you just evolve and you grow so differently.
Absolutely. That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, this has been so awesome. Like thank you so much, honestly, for both of you to come onto the podcast. It is such an honor. Like, I feel so humbled that you chose my platform to speak on.
Oh, girl, are you kidding? I couldn't wait to get on here with you. I couldn't wait. You are such an awesome human being. You always have a smile on your face. You always have things to say. And right, what you're saying is really what you're doing. Like, you're working with kids. You are out there making a huge impact in the world. I couldn't wait to get a seat next to you, somebody who's making such a huge impact in the world. I couldn't wait. I am honored.
Rhonda, girl, thank you.
Oh, when Rhonda told me about you and about being on the podcast, I said, well, I want to be on it too. So thank you for including me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Well,
absolutely.
If you don't mind closing us out, both of you, and let us know, how can we all join this alliance, be part of the group, and how do we reach you?
EmpoweringWomenAlliance.com.
You can go there. You can register. It's free to register. And once you register, the nice thing is we'll keep you informed on the status of the books, because there's not going to be just one. There's going to be several books. And then we also do a weekly newsletter. Let me tell you something. They always tell you to get there, you surround yourself with people smarter than you. And let me tell you something, sister, I have done that. I have people like Deb Anderson and Ming Lovejoy and Susan Jones and Kathy Peak. Like, these women are just incredible human beings, and the words and the love that they put together in our newsletters that they send out to everybody that registers. So make sure that you register. We have merchandise. We have t-shirts. We have keychains. We have mugs. We have shirts. Like, we have all kinds of little tchotchkes, right? We're about to have coffee, right? So it's all kinds of wonderful things that have our emblem. They have authentically self-expressed, unapologetically powerful on the back of the t-shirts. I mean, join our Facebook group and reach out to us. Deb and I mean, we're plugged into both of those. We're really always looking to have speaking conversations and opportunities with groups of women. So reach out, join the group, and share your love. Like, we have over 1,300 women.
Wow. Oh my God, I love this.
Yeah, absolutely. Tuesdays, every woman talks about her business plan. Not every, but I try to get them, right? I poke them all. Like, tell me about your business. Tell me about your business. So it was an awesome, awesome community, and you're all invited to join us.
Love it.
It's thoughtful, it's emotionally evocative and provocative. It's non-controversial. We are inclusive. All women are welcome, and we're not trying to exclude men, but we're speaking to women's hearts. We would love to speak to yours too.
Love it. Love. Thank you so much.